On this Monday Morning Minute, it's all about the new Ventrac wide area mower. We took a little different approach with this attachment, and we actually pre-launched it before it was available for the public to see. In all those efforts, we got a lot of different questions from all of our customers about this deck. How does it work? Tell me about it. What are the things to know? So we've compiled a list of questions to answer on this Monday Morning Minute. They give you guys a look behind the scenes at what everybody else wants to know about the wide area mower. So the first thing everybody wants to know, and these are in no particular order, is what gives? Why'd you build it in the first place? What was the point? Well, the Wham is all about mowing as fast as possible. It's really perfectly suited for the types of customers that are doing municipal spaces, parks and recs, schools, collegiate facilities, something like a softball field like I have behind me today. Anything where it's a large area and you want to get done as fast as possible. The cut quality on it is really good. It's not quite as good as maybe our MS series mowers or a real mower, but it's good enough for all of these public spaces, and it gets the job done very quickly. So we know labor is a big concern for everybody these days. That's why we built the deck. Another question we got was, how am I going to fit the wide area mower on a trailer? You have three options there. What I do personally when we take it around places is I use a deck over trailer. That's your easiest option. The deck itself is 96 inches wide. So if you can, use a deck over trailer. That's the best solution. If you can't do that, you could use a 3-point with a 3-in-1 receiver and put the deck on the back of the tractor and lift it over the wheel wells. And if you don't want to do that, you can back the tractor on the trailer and flip the deck up, and it'll just sit kind of on that back tail section before you get to the wheel wells. As a bonus for the Wham, we also have the hydraulic flip-up kit available, or you can do it manually just like the rest of our out front decks. All right, next question. Will the wide area mower scalp? It looks pretty wide. That seems to be a concern. So it is an 8-foot deck, and if you try to take it over a 3-foot hill, you're going to rub the top right off of it. Obviously, a sports field, a soccer field, football field, softball field like this is going to be totally fine. A lot of parks areas, just general purpose public green spaces are going to be totally fine. But again, it is 8 foot, so you have to be a little bit more careful with it than you would any smaller deck. It's just going to be a matter of getting a feel for your property and where you can and can't take this thing. The next thing people want to know is, does the Ventrac wide area mower stripe like the rest of your decks? And the answer to that is yes. It does have a full-length 4-inch steel roller, so that's chasing the mower blades and helping with that striping effect. Also, you get the benefit of, just like every other mower deck on a Ventrac, the deck itself being out front and isolated from the tractor. So as the deck is floating along the ground, it's basically just pushing the deck itself. And none of the weight of the deck is being supported by the tractor when it's in float. And therefore, you're going to leave a pretty bold stripe compared to other options. What you can do to maximize this is to take it completely out of weight transfer. And usually with this deck, you're not going to be running on extreme hills, so you can keep it out of weight transfer a little bit easier, and it's not as critical to have it in any weight transfer settings that would pull the back of the roller up at all and keep it from striping. So yes, it does stripe well. The Ventrac wide area mower is a rear discharge deck, and one of the common questions was, why did you go with rear discharge versus side discharge? And there's a few reasons for that. We anticipate this deck being used a lot, like I said earlier, by municipalities, school districts, and a lot of public spaces. When you don't have debris shooting out the left or right side, it's just less likely that you're going to hit buildings, cars, people, anything else that could cause problems. Next, it's convenient, since it's rear discharge, that you can trim on either side of the deck. You don't have to worry about where that discharge is blowing, so you don't have to avoid flower beds or roadways or anything like that. It's just, straight ahead. You don't have to worry about where that debris is heading out. And lastly, rear discharge works a little more efficiently with the power available on the tractor. So that much cut width, 95-inch cut width, depending how much grass you're cutting off, you can be processing a lot of material. And by having it rear discharge and allowing it to flow out rather than having to process all the way across the deck and throw it out, we're consuming a little bit less power, and you can travel at a more consistent, faster speed than you could if it was side discharge. Another observation people had is that the wide area mower looks absolutely massive. How will it work on a hill? The short answer to that is it's rated at 30 degrees, just like the rest of our mowing decks. The more detailed answer to that is that it's a finish mower. So if you have a giant hill that is up to 30 degrees and is a pretty smooth finish, regularly maintained grass, this thing should have no problem with that. But a lot of hills that don't get touched as often, or that are more native areas, are just going to be taller grass, going to be rougher ground underneath. That's an area where something like a tough cut would work better. Another question related to the size of the wide area mower is it too big to fit on the tight areas of my property? Yes. It just is. It's 96 inches wide. If there's 80 inches between two trees, it's not going to fit. The beauty of this tractor is this deck will come off and a 60-inch deck will go on in about a minute. So if you have a huge property with lots of wide areas and big open areas, but then also some tight spots, then buy a second deck and you have one tractor to run both of them. It's the most efficient way to get that whole property done. People also wanted to know, why didn't we make this a contour deck and why is it a straight design? Well, there's a few reasons for that. First of all, most properties that we see this working on and that we've had it in testing on don't need a contour deck for the areas that they're using it on. It's nice in a few select areas of the property, but by and large, it's just not necessary. So building the deck like this strips a lot of cost out, and we pass that savings and efficiency on to the consumer. So this deck will be cheaper than our contour mower. We already have a contour mower. That's another reason why we didn't build this one the same way. It's just a lot more complex. There's a lot more pieces and parts to it. We expect these to be out in public settings, especially getting a lot of hours on them. I want them to hold up to even that level of abuse. Also, another big reason why it's not as necessary with our platform is that the deck is totally isolated from the tractor. It rides on the hitch arms, but when it's in float, the deck is basically being pushed along the ground by itself. So even though the deck itself is straight, the whole system together as a mowing system is still very good at not scalping. Everywhere that we've had this, where we've had people demo it and try it out, everyone's been surprised at how little it actually scalps. We also had a whole lot of people want to know, can I mow tall grass with this? And unfortunately, the answer is probably not. Obviously, with a deck this wide, everybody sees it and they say, ooh, this is going to cover a lot of area. I want to see as much as I can mow, as fast as I can mow, all of these areas that are rough, roadsides, ditches, anything like that. And the reality is this deck isn't built to hold up to that kind of abuse. For something like that, you want to go for our tough cut instead. This deck, again, we need to keep on sports turf and in public spaces, anywhere where the grass is regularly maintained and the ground underneath is not too rough. Another really good question we got was, does the tractor have enough power to run this deck? Again, a lot of these questions are driven by the fact that this deck looks absolutely massive in person. So it does bring up a lot of questions. Can that tractor handle it? The answer to that is yes. In most conditions, it doesn't cause any issues whatsoever. If the grass is really thick and really wet, you're just going to have to slow down a little bit. And it's also, you have to pay attention to what your discharge is like and whether it's an acceptable level of grass left standing. The last thing to say about that would be the 4500Y, the 25 horsepower diesel tractor, is more susceptible to feeling those effects. So the long, wet, thick grass is going to be more detrimental to using this on a 4500Y than it is any of the higher horsepower engines. But for the most part, the tractor can push it around just fine. At speed, everything's good. And one bonus question that we got from a few people. Again, that thing's really wide. What happens if you hit something? I don't know. What happens if you hit something with your car? What happens if you stick your finger in a light socket? Just don't hit stuff, okay? Fair warning. This deck is big and wide. If you hit something at speed with it, something's going to give. Either what you hit or the deck itself. The last thing I want to say about the Ventrac wide area mower is that from my perspective, if there's any attachment in our lineup that you have to try, it's this thing. It'd be really easy, I think, to look at the deck and see how big it is and maybe something else about it and disqualify it for use on your property because you've got tight areas or I've got an area where I think it would scalp. But just from my own personal use, using this deck, it might be one of the most fun attachments we have, and it's certainly one of the most productive. There's nothing cooler than going out and mowing an area twice as fast as you used to with some other piece of equipment. So if you're comparing this to an out front mower, a zero turn, anything in that normal size range that a landscaper or a municipality might be using, this thing blows the doors off of those. If you're interested in the actual technical launch of this product and some of the other specific details of using it, check out the other videos and links in the description below. And make sure you check out our website, ventrac.com, and our YouTube channel. Subscribe to that so that you can see videos of the wide area mower and our other attachments in use.